Alongside the Velar, the Range Rover Sport is probably the most overlooked model of Land Rover's immensely popular luxury line. While the Evoque is the big seller and the full-fat Range Rover offers the most technology and looks appeal, the Sport is a middle ground between the two, offering a lot of luxury and car park kudos without the sky-high price of a top model. The Sport represents the market for posh SUVs, and it could be argued that it has perpetuated the increasing market for performance SUVs. The car's story spans 3 generations and nearly 20 years, beginning with a rather bold concept. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe. Without further ado, this is the story of the Range Rover Sport. The wild concept in question was named the Range Stormer and is by far the wildest creation ever made by Land Rover. The 2-door performance SUV featured an aggressive design with muscular arches and short overhangs. The clamshell bonnet and Lamborghini-style doors were the biggest departure from the usually reserved styling previously seen on Range Rovers. However, the overall design was quite similar to the styling of the first generation of the Sport, with Land Rover being clear at the time that the concept would end up in production. The interior was an entirely different story, however. It featured 4 seats that were separated, enhancing the feeling of space inside. They were adorned in brown saddle leather, which also featured on the dashboard and centre console. Leather featured throughout, while other sophisticated materials like oak and aluminium added to the modern, luxurious look. Up front, there was a unique steering wheel and a collection of dials behind it. It does look somewhat dated now, particularly the dashboard and DVD player, with 2 more of those screens available in the rear. On to the other technology on display. It demonstrated Land Rover's new platform, which was to be used across a range of vehicles. It was said to offer the strength of a monocoque, with the versatility of a body-on-frame chassis. It featured independent suspension with adjustable springs, as well as terrain response, which had 2 road settings, a versatile mode for slippier surfaces, and 3 off-road modes. The concept featured a supercharged V8 engine, used in the Jaguar XJR and XKR, which was waterproofed for wading. It delivered this power through a ZF 6-speed automatic gearbox, while it predictably had permanent 4-wheel drive. It had a 180-mile-an-hour top speed. Only one was made, which now resides in the British Motor Museum in Gaydon, while the Crown Prince of Dubai had a replica made for himself. The first generation Range Rover Sport launched in 2005, featuring a new chassis from the Stormer and terrain response, like on the concept. Visually, it was similar to the popular L322 Range Rover and Discovery 3, though it was a bit shorter and slightly more sporty looking thanks to its more raked roofline. The interior was pretty similar to its big brothers, with premium leather used throughout, as well as a distinctive steering wheel and an abundance of buttons below the central screen. There were 3 engine options available at launch, with the entry-level choice being the 2.7 litre TD V6 supplied by Ford, which offered 187 horsepower and 440 Nm of torque, although the 0-60 time was sluggish at 11.9 seconds, and the fuel economy wasn't great at 28 miles per gallon, although it was better than all the petrol models. A year later, the TD V8 was launched with a twin-turbo diesel engine offering 268 horsepower and a stonking 640 Nm of torque. At launch, there were 2 petrol-powered variants. The naturally aspirated 4.4 litre Jaguar V8 produced 300 horsepower and 425 Nm of torque, while the supercharged 4.2 V8 had 385 horsepower and 550 Nm on tap. With a supercharged offering, the Sport could reach 60 miles per hour in as little as 7.1 seconds. Air suspension offered a comfortable, adaptable ride that allowed the sporty range to be used effectively off-road, although it's hard to imagine many owners actually did. Dynamic response used electro-hydraulic active anti-roll bars to improve on-road handling. There were a few trims on offer. The S was the base spec with cloth seating and a few basic features, with the SE offering heated seats and parking sensors. The cheapest trim was dropped after 2009 though. The HSE came standard with leather seats, dual zone climate control and a better sound system. The supercharged model had a high level of kit as standard, as did the HST, which was only available with a V8 and had a sportier body kit. The 2009 facelift brought a swathe of changes for the 2010 model year. These included a redesigned front end to improve aerodynamics, electric folding mirrors, and a new bumper and lights at the rear. Inside, there was a new steering wheel, seats and switchgear, with more leather used and 50% fewer buttons, as more functions were put through the central touchscreen. A new 6-speed ZF gearbox, improved fuel economy, while the suspension was further refined. The terrain response and hill descent control systems were improved for the updated model. There was also a new range of engines on offer. Two 3-litre TD-V6 engines were available, with one offering 208 horsepower and 520 Nm of torque, the more powerful version putting out 242 horsepower and 600 Nm. Meanwhile, the petrol options were exclusively Jaguar 5-litre V8s. The naturally aspirated engine had 370 horsepower and 510 Nm of torque, while the supercharged version had 503 horsepower and 625 Nm, taking the 0 to 60 time down to just 5.9 seconds. 2011 brought a couple of changes to the lineup. The Autobiography entered as the highest trim level, including automatic adaptive headlights, a 360-degree camera system, and a more luxurious interior. The new diesel engine, the SD-V6, offered 254 horsepower and 600 Nm of torque, making it the fastest 6-cylinder available in the first-gen Sport. There was a final facelift in 2012 with minor changes such as a new infotainment system with Bluetooth and a power tailgate. It also introduced a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Overall, the first-gen Range Rover Sports was received well with pretty decent reviews. It also sold well, with nearly 414,000 being sold over 8 years, over 120,000 more than the L322 Range Rover that was in production for longer, meaning it was certainly popular with buyers. The second generation, codenamed the L494, arrived in 2013. The styling was in keeping with other recent models like the new Evoque and the L405 Range Rover, being stylish and more sporty than the top model, yet still reserved and classy. The interior was modernised, with a new steering wheel and a cleaner, more technological dashboard and centre console. Despite being longer and wider than the outgoing model, it was 181 kilos lighter, tipping the scales at 2,144 kilograms. This is likely down to the use of an aluminium monocoque chassis, replacing the body-on-frame used in the L320. It also introduced dynamic response suspension with active anti-roll bars. There were also quite a few engines available, with a few updates to the range throughout its lifespan. There was a supercharged 5-litre V8 offering 510 horsepower in its standard form. On the diesel front, a 3-litre TD-V6 and a 3-litre SD-V6 were offered, with the former producing 258 horsepower and the latter putting out 306. The TD-V6 was dropped quite quickly though. There was also a 4.4-litre turbo diesel V8 sourced from Ford with an output of 339 horsepower. All models use a ZF 8-speed automatic. Later on down the line, there was the addition of a 2-litre Ingenium diesel and a 3-litre supercharged V6 producing 335 horsepower. The model that made the Range Rover Sport as sought after as it was the SVR, the ultimate version of the sporty range. With a more aggressive front end, a rear that featured a pronounced diffuser and larger exhaust tips, and 21-inch alloy wheels, it looked the part. To back up its appearance, it used a 5-litre supercharged V8, which was tuned up to 550 horsepower and 681 Nm of torque, and with a gearbox that shifted 50% quicker. It also had more advanced active dampers and a sports exhaust system. It could complete 0 to 60 mph in just 4.5 seconds and reach a top speed of 162 mph, kicking off the super SUV industry that is now thriving today. The facelift was revealed in 2017, with production beginning the following year. There were new headlights and redesigned bumpers and exhaust tips, although, as with many Land Rover facelifts, the changes were quite minor. Inside, there was a new infotainment system, replacing some of the buttons previously seen under the main screen. There were a few changes to the engine lineup, which coincided with the facelift. The 3-litre straight 6 became a mild hybrid, with either 355 or 395 horsepower, while the V8 was given an extra 15 horsepower, taking the total up to 518. A plug-in hybrid was introduced, as a 2-litre, 4-cylinder Ingenium petrol engine was paired with a 13.1 kWh lithium-ion battery and an 85 kW electric motor. The result was up to 31 miles of all-electric range and 404 horsepower. The V6 and V8 diesels were replaced in 2020 by a pair of mild hybrid diesels, which had either 300 or 350 horsepower. The SVR got a few upgrades with slightly more aggressive styling and the option of a carbon fibre bonnet, which turned the sportiness up to 11. Power was up to 575 horsepower, reducing the 0 to 60 time to just 4 seconds. There was also the HST, which arrived in 2019, although this was essentially a slightly higher spec and more sporty version of a 6-cylinder model. Production of the L494 ended in 2022, and it was another roaring success. Between 2014 and 2019, sales were on average over 80,000. This means it sold better on average than the first generation did yearly, although it's likely that sales dropped off over the last few years of production due to it aging. The third generation Range Rover Sport, codenamed the L461, was revealed in 2022. Visually, it's sporty and aggressive, yet more minimalistic, with a design akin to the styling of the L460 Range Rover and the facelifted Evoque. Inside, it's pretty similar to the full-size range, with premium materials throughout and a clean layout, with a 7-inch digital driver's display and a 13.1-inch Pivi Pro touchscreen. It's 180 kilograms heavier than the previous model, which is unsurprising, weighing in at 2,322 kilograms. This is largely because it's about the same size as the L405 Range Rover, meaning it's far from compact. However, it uses Dynamic Response Pro to reduce body roll, while all-wheel steering improves handling at low speeds and boosts stability at higher speeds. There's also dynamic air suspension to balance comfort and handling. There are quite a number of powertrain choices. Currently, there are 3 diesels available, all being 3-litre straight 6s with mild hybrid assistance. Power ranges from 247 horsepower to 345 horsepower. The P530 seems to be the only petrol model available at the moment, with the BMW 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8 offering 523 horsepower and 750 Nm of torque. Turbocharged inline 6s were previously available, offering either 355 or 395 horsepower, but it seems they are no longer available. There are 2 plug-in hybrids on sale at the moment, the P460e and P550e, both of which are 3-litre straight 6s, paired with a 38 kWh battery, offering up to 75 miles in range. 2 other models were available, the P440e and the P510e, although they are no longer available on the configurator. The SV is a replacement for the SVR, despite a different name. Powered by the 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8 mild hybrid, boasts 626 bhp and 750 Nm of torque, making it capable of 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. There's more to it than straight-line performance though, with seriously mean looks and a whole host of other upgrades. There are the options of 23-inch carbon fibre wheels, carbon ceramic brakes and lower suspension. Most of the electronic systems have been tuned for faster driving and track use, while there's also a bespoke SV mode. Inside, there are performance seats, some moodier materials, and edge-lit translucent paddles. The price for the Range Rover Sport SV Edition 2 starts at £171,800. That's the story of the Range Rover Sport, perhaps the perfect understudy to the legendary Range Rover. Over the last 2 decades, it has established itself as one of the best premium SUVs and has sold in prolific numbers across all 3 generations. The future likely holds a facelift and an all-electric model after the full-fat range gets these, but it's hard to imagine demand falling anytime soon.